Welcome to the Uncanny Academy of X-Men lore. I am Jared, and today we're talking about Avengers versus X-Men. Next story episode is going to be Hawks and Pox. I just wanted to make sure that I covered this one in detail before we got to Hawks and Pox, because this kind of sets up a lot of the themes in Hawks and Pox. So Avengers versus X-Men was written by numerous writers, including Bendis, Jason Aaron, Brubaker, Matt Fraction, Jonathan Hickman, with art by John Romita Jr., Olivier Coipel, Andy Kubert, and Frank Cho. Amazing storyline. And I believe it was number 2 on my list that I did last week on my top X-Men storylines. So anyway, Avengers versus X-Men. So this was basically, so at this point, remember, we're after Second Coming. Hope Summers is a thing. And the mutants are still like ridiculously low numbers. So everyone's really desperate. So let me go ahead and share my screen and then we'll get started. All right. So we're going to do the 2 prologue chapters first, and then we're going to go through it. So let me make sure it's off of that mode. Okay, good. Okay, so there are 2 storylines we're going to cover in this issue. One covering the Scarlet Witch, and one that features Hope Summers. She's the one that's supposed to restore. Supposed to restore the world. She is destined to restore the world. Now remember, she said no more mutants. That's why I covered House of M before this. All right, so we open up. Generally, it's like a diplomatic convoy that's traveling. Then it's attacked by MODOK. Now, at the last second, before the vehicles can be destroyed, Scarlet Witch shows up and completely shellacks MODOK. They have this really epic fight on the streets, and it's in front of DC at the White House. And then Ms. Marvel and Spider-Woman show up and help her secure the area. And then what's interesting is, so remember, this is after Avengers versus X-Men. And what I mean by that is, well, not Avengers versus X-Men. This is after, let's see, what's that X-Men? Oh yeah, Avengers disassembled with a Scarlet Witch went crazy and killed people. So she's not feeling so well. So Carol Danvers is like, hey, listen, you're an Avenger. Why don't you come back? We understand that you weren't in control of your mind. Come on back, say hi to the people, to the other Avengers. They'd love to see you. So she reluctantly agrees and ends up going to the Avengers Mansion where she meets Vision. Remember, her husband, that in Avengers Disassembled, what she did to Vision is she used him to create Ultron robots. So Vision is naturally kind of upset. He's like, hey, listen, I understand. I feel all your life struggles, and I have empathy for the manipulations that you may have endured. And he said, but what I do not have compassion or understanding for is the idea that when you're at your lowest, you chose, out of the millions of choices and variables in front of you, you chose to overpower me and use my body as a weapon against my friends in my home. That I can't forgive. So Wanda leaves. And you can see Vision's actually crying here. So he's really not feeling okay from all the incidents. Because remember, they were together. They were husband and wife. So now we're going to transition over to Hope Summers. Right now, these 2 storylines, by the way, that we're going over right now are going to establish the context for the ending of the entire Avengers versus X-Men storyline. So we have Hope Summers. Remember, she doesn't like Scott Summers because, because as you remember when we covered Second Coming, Cable died because Cyclops sent him on a mission. You know, it's the end result of Cyclops sending him on this mission. Remember, at this point, the X-Men are on Utopia in San Francisco. So Hope has been going out being a regular superhero, and Cyclops doesn't want it because, look, you're too important. You're really important. We can't afford to lose you. Because remember, at this point, they believe that, so Hope is the first mutant born after the decimation, which was House of M. So their whole idea is keep her alive because somehow she's gonna recreate the mutant race. So, okay, so Cyclops is super protective over her. And this is a common theme throughout the entire storyline. So Hope leaves. She eventually leaves, but then she asks him a question. Tell me about the Phoenix, because what's actually happening is she's being called by the Phoenix. Now, what's the Phoenix? So the Phoenix is the result of like one of the best X-Men storylines of all time, the Phoenix Saga and Dark Phoenix Saga. And what it is, it's this entity that often manifests itself as a fiery bird, like Moltres from Pokemon. And it's basically the I guess personification, if you will, of the power of life and death in the galaxy. And it's like it imbues its user with like godlike powers, and we'll see that in this storyline as well. So she thinks that she's going to be a threat. So she's trying to be like she's trying to be a hero. She's like, don't stop me. And then Cyclops goes to stop her, obviously, and then she blasts her with eye beams. Because remember, Hope's power is that she can imitate the powers of mutants around her. She can imitate and sometimes amplify. So she falls out, and then she goes to there's this bank robbery that she wants to go resolve, and we have a couple of D-tier villains that she takes care of. She completely annihilates these people by like imitating all these different mutant powers. It's so cool. She even grows like really big, and she's fighting this guy. She grows like ridiculously big and just punches the crap out of this dude. And then Cyclops and Emma Frost show up and help her secure the area. And Cyclops is naturally pissed. He's like, we can't afford to lose you. And then she comes back, washes the blood off her gloves, looks up in the sky, and then we see the Phoenix. That's basically the Phoenix. So the Phoenix is returning to Earth. So that's part one. So that's the prologue chapter. Now we're getting to the actual Avengers versus X-Men event. So we open up on this like abandoned alien farm that is wiped out by the Phoenix in fiery brimstone, which I found is really well drawn. And we have Ms. Marvel returns to Avengers Tower, and the Avengers are all like congregating to like go over business. And then they notice something that looks like a meteorite coming in, and it hits this plane. So the Avengers fall out and save the plane before it crashes into New York City. And then, so they eventually discover, by the way, so here's an interesting thing. So Spider-Man deploys all these webs to like block all this debris. This is a really, really, really strong fiber. And I think they make a point of that in the movies too. So anyway, they find the entity that crashed through the plane. It turns out it's Nova. Now the Nova Corps. Nova is like the closest Marvel has to Green Lantern, in that he's a member of an intergalactic police force called the Nova Corps. So Nova crashes, and he goes, "Guys, it's coming." He means the Phoenix is coming. So we cut back to Utopia, and Cyclops is training Hope, and he's like, "You have to learn how to fight without your powers, because say you get hit with someone that turns off your powers, you have to like to know how to do this, and your enemy's not going to fight fair." So again, and then Hope manifests Phoenix powers, which was like, I'm like, okay. And now, so Tony Stark and Steve Rogers are brought to the White House to brief the president on the Phoenix, and he says, okay, so is this being a great power? It's normally associated with the X-Men, and then Captain America's like, look, we need to deal with this pretty much immediately, because the Phoenix is coming and we have to deal with this. So what happens is, so they go to the next greatest expert on the X-Men, Wolverine. Now, why is Wolverine at his school and not in Utopia? Well, because during the Avengers storyline Schism, he broke away from the X-Men to form his own school, the Jean Grey School for Higher Learning. So, so they're telling him that the Phoenix is coming back. So Wolverine's like, okay, we gotta go. Oh, leave my kids out of this from this school because they're not being trained to fight or anything, but I'll help you out. So the X-Men are on Utopia. They're discussing what to do about Hope because they know the Phoenix is dangerous, but they also know that Hope is really important. And I love how, and then Emma Frost suddenly like freezes, and then she's like, "You're never gonna believe who just showed up." So it's Captain America, and he's telling Cyclops, "Look, I sympathize with what's going on with the X-Men. I 100% sympathize. But we need to take Hope into protective custody because the Phoenix Force is coming, and we are pretty familiar with what happens when someone is inhabited by the Phoenix. We're aware of the destructive force that can be wrought by this creature. So at this point, and then he adds, Wolverine told us pretty much. So this fantastic moment that like almost makes the book for me too is when, okay, so basically they're having an argument about the Phoenix, and Scott's like, it's not a force of destruction, it's a force of rebirth. Hope with the Phoenix can bring the mutants back. And he's like, and now I like that. What I like here is Cyclops talks to Captain America, and he goes, Captain America, when have you ever done anything for the mutants? You're this well-known superhero. Everyone trusts Captain America. You don't do enough to improve the public's perception of mutants. You only come to us when you need something. Which she's got a point, because let's not forget, with Genosha, someone committed mutant genocide, and the Avengers didn't do anything to help the mutants. They're constantly being targeted. The mutants are constantly being targeted by hate groups and like distrusted by the public, but the Avengers don't do anything to help them. I'm like, what? And he makes that good point. And then so eventually Cap goes, look, I'm taking Hope, I'm not asking. And Cyclops is like, I know. And then freaking I beams him. And then Emma Frost is like, oh boy, here we go. Then the helicarrier shows up, and we have like the Avengers showing up. It's like Iron Man, Iron Fist, Luke Cage, Red Hulk, Wolverine. Wolverine's fighting against the X-Men. Black Widow, Spider-Man. Also a lot of characters, because pretty much every Marvel superhero has been an Avenger. And then what happens is then I love this, because Emma Frost is like, Scott, maybe she wants to go to the X-Men, to the Avengers. It's her decision. And Cyclops is like, no, it's not. And then that's how this issue ends. We're going to get to issue 2. Issue 2. So at this point, as we know, the Avengers and X-Men just traded blows. So what Magneto does is he magnetizes Colossus and throws him through the helicarrier. He's like, screw it. And then Colossus goes full Hulk smash and like destroys a lot of stuff in the helicarrier. Actually, I think he destroys the helicarrier and then it falls. And then the Avengers fall in the water, and Namor shows up and starts thrashing people about. So basically, the war has started. Like everyone is just fighting, and this was just like that scene from Captain America: Civil War where the two sides clash. Loved it. So then Emma Frost hides Hope inside the buildings on the island, then goes out to fight Tony. She diamonds up and punches him in the gut. And I like how Bendis describes this. He goes, organic diamond meets multi-billion-dollar armor, the most expensive punch in history. I'm like, yeah, that's true. That's actually really cool. And he does this throughout the entire fight scene. He goes like, metal fighting flesh, and it's really, really cool. And then for some reason, Iron Man thinks it's a good idea to fight Magneto. And then we see Quicksilver. He's talking to someone, and he goes, so our friends are being attacked by the Avengers. Let's go fight. I wonder who this could be. Quicksilver takes off, and then he actually sides against Magneto because he's not really a big Magneto fan. And then we discover the person he was talking to was his sister Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch. And then you notice she has a little dream journal, and in it she puts "This is how the world ends," and she draws a picture of the Phoenix. One will be very important later. And now what's interesting is by the way, Storm is fighting T'Challa. So in other words, wife is fighting husband. It's like lots of crazy stuff is going on here. Like all these former friends are fighting. And even Domino is like, I never thought I'd see the day when Wolverine would stand against his own people. And then we see Hope is watching this. She's not liking being on the sidelines. And let's see. Cap and Cyclops have a battle in which Cap wins handedly. We see all these different battles. It's really weird. I love bloody waves pounding the shore. This is written really well. I like it. And then we see Doctor Strange. So basically, Magic, who has the power to like travel to I think it's called like Purgatory or something like that. So she takes Doctor Strange to Purgatory and fights him there. We don't know what happens yet. So then eventually Wolverine and Spider-Man enter Utopia through a drainage pipe, and then they see Hope has incapacitated the other X-Men. Her Phoenix powers are starting to manifest because the closer the Phoenix gets to her, the more her powers show up. And then Wolverine shows up and tries to kill her because his move is, it doesn't matter who it is, it doesn't matter who the Phoenix is inhabiting, it's too dangerous to leave the Phoenix. There's too many unknowns to leave it to chance. And then he gets burnt up like a freaking crisp. And everyone's like, oh no. And then she like cheeses it out. And then we see a big contingent of the Avengers made up of like Beast, War Machine, Valkyrie, Thor, Vision, and that's Ms. Marvel. And their mission is to basically delay the Phoenix. And I love how it ends here. 3:45 p.m. on a Tuesday, the moment all hope was lost. Love that. So next we pull up to Avengers Vs X-Men 3. We get to issue 3, and we're in the middle of this battle. So Wolverine wakes up naked and burnt to a crisp because of his healing factor. And Wolverine dresses, moves down to the helicarrier, so apparently it wasn't destroyed. And the Avengers and X-Men are pretty tense, but they've stopped fighting. And then what's interesting is, so Doctor Strange shows up, bringing the body of Magic and saying, "Listen, she's just out cold. Don't worry about it. Here you go." So Wolverine pulls out his claws, and it turns out that was actually Magic who was posing as Doctor Strange. Because remember, he's kind of immune to that whole shapeshifter thing because he can smell people. We saw this in like the X-Men 1 movie. The X-Men teleport away. And so their plan is to, right now it turns into a race to find Hope Summers because she ran off. And she's really concerned about her powers and being the possible destruction of the world instead of the mutant messiah. So we have so next we have Rachel Summers, Cyclops' other daughter, who ends up being Wolverine's mole on the inside. And it's Rachel Summers, and she's giving Wolverine like information on where she is, where Hope is, because she can use Cerebro because she's a super telepath. The Avengers fall out. They split up into different teams and move out. And then Wolverine is like, Wolverine and Captain America have a conversation. So Wolverine goes, okay, back on Utopia, you went full Rambo on us, and Hope left because she was scared. And then she basically tells Wolverine, listen, you didn't follow orders. I told you we're taking her alive. I'm not sure that we need you for this mission right now because you're too emotionally invested. So what Cap does is he beats the crap out of Wolverine, and then they throw him out of a plane into the Arctic because he'll heal. He's fine. So the Avengers, so that's where we left Wolverine. So he's stuck in the, so what's cool is that, so they find he finds a beer can, a trail of beer cans in the middle of the Arctic. So, and I love how he's using the body of a polar bear that he killed for warmth. So he gets to a private plane and he's like, oh, it's Hope Summers. She left the trail because she wants him to help her figure out a way to control this Phoenix, because there is a possibility that she could control the power and then use it to repopulate the mutant kind. In space, it's not going well for the Avengers. As you can see there, enters that was Ms. Marvel, except she's not in space anymore. Thor throws Mjolnir at the Phoenix, it doesn't do anything. And he's like, oh no. Except actually the Phoenix feeds on a planet. So at this, this is basically where Hope convinces Wolverine to to help her out and say, listen, just give me one chance. And then if it seems to be going bad, kill me. That's fine. But just let me have this one shot. So he goes, okay, we'll do it. So back at the X-Men safe house, which has been in Hellfire Club, a safe house, what Emma Frost does is she takes over the mind of like a janitor at the Jean Grey school, and uses Cerebro through him to find Jean. And we see like not Jean, to find Hope. Then we have all these battles going on between the Avengers and the X-Men. We have in Wakanda, in let's see, in Tabula Rasa. It's like all over the world, the Avengers and X-Men are fighting. I like how Colossus is wearing Juggernaut's head. That's really cool. So basically, it's a full-on war again between the Avengers and the X-Men. And then we also learn that Tony Stark is working on this device that's supposed to be able to take out the Phoenix. So he has a weapon. He has a way to to handle this. So then they find out where Hope is going, which is the moon. So Hope and Wolverine hop in a rocket, take off, and go to this moon base. And this is on the blue side of the moon, which is basically the moon, but it has atmosphere. So they're all good. It's not like they're going to die. So it turns out Wolverine had been telling the Avengers Hope's whole plan, because what happens is that he promised to take her to the moon. He said, okay, I fulfilled my side of the deal. You can tell me what I could do when I got there. So the X-Men show up as well, and they battle. They do battle, and then the Phoenix shows up. So now we cut to, so now the Phoenix is here, and this is like the end times, if you will. This is like the one final effort. So, and then what's interesting is Hope tells a story about Colonel Thomas Farabee. He was the one who piloted the plane that dropped the atomic bomb for the first time. And he goes, everyone knows that his name is, he's one of the pilots, but no one blames him for like causing all this destruction. They blame the bomb. So she basically goes, am I the bomb, or am I the one that's going to drop the bomb? Am I the one that's going to be to blame for this? So the Phoenix starts killing everyone, and well, not killing everyone, but fighting everyone. And in fact, she tells Wolverine, okay, go time, you can kill me now. He goes to kill her, and Cyclops stops her. And then Tony Stark's little device is activated, and it turns out it's a super Iron Man suit. He takes off. So we have more battles between the Avengers and X-Men. And then the Phoenix still shows up. And then all over the world, we're seeing the result of the Phoenix showing up. And then the suit takes off. Iron Man fires its cannon. And okay. And then the result of this is he doesn't kill the Phoenix. He just splits it up among 5 people. Among Emma Frost, Cyclops, Colossus, Magic, and Namor. So now you got 5 Phoenixes. This is not good. And they basically say, we're going to rule the world now. And now we move on to Avengers vs. X-Men number 6. All right, so we cut to Utopia 10 days later. Charles Xavier shows up and he goes, hello, Eric, it's been a while. Welcome to Utopia. And it looks much better compared to the way it looked before. It's a much larger island. It's more Utopia-esque, if you will. I'm really good at puns. So it eventually goes down is they started detecting that Magneto communicates to Professor that the kids have changed, that they've grown up, and you know what? They're 100% right in this situation. Then we see Cyclops. I love all the Phoenix 5 designs for all of these X-Men. I think they're like fantastic. I mean, I get the Cyclops one for Future Fight as soon as possible. I haven't played Future Revolution yet. I'm just trying to get the download space on either my phone or my tablet, and then I can do that. So you see that the Phoenix 5 are actually making the world better. They're creating more fertile lands. They're creating like food biomes where we can continue to grow food so there won't be any hunger. Namor is building a system of tunnels under the ocean so we can have like unlimited water, and Emma Frost is like building this big solar power so no one will go without food, water, power, and everything. The mutants have this place where they can live together. And then Cyclops says, hey, remember that dream of mutants and humans coexisting? Yeah, we have it. Here we go. You're welcome, brother. Now what we also see is now the Avengers perspective. So Iron Fist is reporting to Captain America, and he's like, okay, so here's what happened on our recent mission. We were going to go take out the Electric Legion. Ignore it. They're not really that important. Colossus shows up, just talks to this dude, and then it all just stops. All the violence stops. So that's really odd. All the Avengers are like, wait a second. So what eventually turns out is, so they're really concerned because the X-Men with these powers, like I said before, they're gods right now. It's essentially like if all of the heavy hitters of the Justice League showed up in the Marvel universe and just went, we rule here now. That's it. If the Injustice universe, all the strongest, all Superman, Wonder Woman, Lantern, Flash, they have godlike powers. Then we see Hope Summers, and then what's interesting is Cyclops tells her, this isn't a prison. You can come and go as you please. But what Hope tells him is, I can't. I'm drawn to the Phoenix's power. So she is incapable of leaving. And then Cyclops basically says, okay, so this power was supposed to be yours, but you rejected it. So I'm not so sure you deserve to have this power. And once again, this is sort of showing like how the Phoenix is like influencing all the minds of the X-Men. Then we get these dope pages of the X-Men just destroying militaries. Like Emma Frost is like destroying Sentinels. Illyana Rasputin is like destroying militaries. Colossus is like destroying nukes. Namor's destroying ships. It's really cool. So then in Kunlun, and this is where Iron Fist was trained, and then our little meditation dude, he's called Old Man, is tells this story, this legend of one of the previous Iron Fists who was the Phoenix. So they know about the Phoenix over there. So then the president meets with Cap and Iron Man and tells them that, okay, so the X-Men showed up in the UN and basically says, okay, no more wars. Any violence that happens is not going to be met very happily. We're gonna bust some heads. So everyone's naturally like very concerned about this because once again, the X-Men are acting like dictators, and that's basically what. Think about this as a Marvel analog to Injustice briefly, except this story actually ends. So what we find is that the X-Men, so elsewhere, this was really weird. So I think that what this is showing an elseworld showing of what happens with the Phoenix, because we see like the classic Avengers meet the Phoenix and they get swiftly. Oh no, it wasn't. It was a dream by Wanda. So Wanda was having a dream where it's like all the classic Avengers meet the Phoenix and get killed. So then the Avengers stage this awesome military operation, which is really, really cool. So what they do is they fly a plane over Utopia because they're going to retrieve Hope Summers. Their plan is they're going to halo drop in. So it's what a halo drop is, for those of you that don't know. Basically, they're going to jump out of the plane, free fall. They're going to jump out about 30,000 feet and free fall, and then pop their chutes before they hit the ground, like 500 feet above the ground. Now, normally that's what happens in a military operation. But what they did, they're basically treating it not necessarily as a low opening, but they just deploy these sweet flight suits, fly down. Of course, they're discovered, and then because they're trying to retrieve Hope, and then the X-Men show up. Luckily, Scarlet Witch shows up. Actually, wait. And the X-Men completely destroy the Avengers. Like, completely destroy them. Then Scarlet Witch shows up, takes Hope, and then they all cheese out. They're like, see ya. And now here's where the X-Men make a fatal decision. They go, okay, so the Avengers are the problem. We're going to take out the Avengers. No more Avengers. And that's where we leave issue 6. We're going to get to issue 7, I believe. What was that on issue 6? Yeah, I was on issue 6. All right, issue 7. All right. So the X-Men basically cut off all of the Avengers operations, like completely make it so they can't operate as a team anymore. The Avengers show up and fight, and then, okay, let me see if I can zoom out of this so we can get a better view. Okay, here we go. And then, okay, so let's see what else is going on. So, so now Scarlet Witch has joined the fight, but remember the mutants hate her because of what happened with House of X. So they're going to, so they prioritize targets on her because they know what's going to happen if when she shows up. So what I love is Emma Frost shows up all diamonded out, but then she goes full like female Human Torch and kills Hawkeye. She lights him on fire. Doesn't kill him. Don't worry, he's not dead. Scarlet Witch teleports them away, and she's like really not happy, because the reason why Scarlet Witch was there is because Tony Stark is trying to figure out a way to fight the Phoenix. So he figures, let me see what Wanda can do to them. So he's collecting data, and he goes, you have to go out again, I need more data. And then Wanda leaves. So the X-Men revealed that they didn't kill Hawkeye. They're healing him. They don't want to kill the X-Men. They just don't want them to operate anymore. So then Tony Stark is kind of rebuilding his machine that kind of put us in this bad decision. And then Cap's like, listen, we're fighting a losing battle here. We can't keep with these hit and run attacks all day. Eventually they're going to find us and kill us. So now the Avengers have a team meeting and they go, okay, so here's what we're going to do. They're basically planning out their next move, and then they're attacked by the X-Men again. except here's what they did. Here's their move. So what they do is they decide, okay, so the X-Men are going to prioritize Wanda. So what we'll do, Doctor Strange has these enchantments of Icon, which allow all the which allow people to like shapeshift into other people. So they have like Scarlet Witch all of a sudden shows up in like 5 different locations. Eventually they figure it out which one is the real one, and then it leads to this awesome battle. And I love how like Namor attacks Wanda, and Wanda just teleports him away and just goes, "Go away." He just dematerializes and rematerializes back on Utopia. It's so cool. And then they're like, "We got we can't afford for the Avengers to keep tricking us. We're looking weak." So and again, the X-Men are still trying to find Hope. And Namor wants the Avengers killed. Because remember, he's a king, he's a ruler, he's a warrior. He's saying this is a war now. It's not a game, it's a war. So you have to take out your enemy so they can't do you any more harm. And Cyclops is like, I'm not willing to do that yet. So what happens is Tony Stark is still working on the plan to still trying to like to undo what happened to the X-Men. But what's interesting is that he reveals that like Wanda and the Phoenix energies are sort of like are linked, and that was hinted at House of M, and I'll explain that at the end of the story because it's addressed at the end of the story. Iron Fist shows up and goes, "Hey, we're going to take Hope to Kunlun and train her how to properly control the Phoenix. So when the time comes, there's less of a chance of her like turning into that." So the Avengers all go to Kunlun. And then what happens is Emma Frost says, "Yeah, we have to go take out the mutants. We have to go take out the Avengers." And she basically she manipulates Namor into attacking Wakanda. Obviously, this kind of puts the Avengers at a very sore spot with the X-Men. Like, look at this. He's like, war. Then moving on. Hang on. All right. Look at this page spread. The destruction of Wakanda by King Namor of Atlantis. Look at this. So Wakanda is getting wrecked. A lot of the Avengers fall out through the portal, and then the rest of them help Black Panther defend Wakanda. The Avengers that got through, because they sent a contingent to get Hope through, because she's the priority. Actually, what happens is that, so the portal was open to Kunlun, they sent Hope and Wolverine through, and then as the next group was going through, that's when Namor attacked. I know this because they pop out of the portal after Hope and Wolverine go, "Heads up, we're getting attacked." The Avengers fight Namor, and then this is going to be really important as to what happens here. And first off, he freaking snaps Red Hulk's arm, which is giving you a certain indication of how powerful these beings are. And then Cyclops says, "That idiot, let's go to Wakanda and go dig him out of this one." The X-Men show up, and then Namor is knocked out. Now, here's the interesting thing when one of these 5 are knocked out. The knocked out X-Men, in this case, his Phoenix power is redistributed, if you will, among the remaining 4. So now every time the Avengers manage to beat one of these guys, their power, the remaining become more powerful. This is also key later. And then Charles Xavier reaches out to Scott and he goes, "I am very ashamed of you. What are you doing?" And then basically, okay, if you let me, let's start me. No, Cyclops and Professor X basically have a battle. The Avengers all regroup, and then they are really like they're very, I'm trying to think of the right word for it. Let me put it this way, they're down because they know that their job's going to get harder when they take out one of these X-Men. This leads to the next issue. So we open up and it's an unknown narrator who's getting like clobbered by Colossus, and it looks like he's getting killed. We'll come back to this. So this is taking place a little bit later. We have the Avengers are coming, are basically fighting the war against the X-Men, but they're getting torn apart. Like the X-Men are beating Thor. Red Hulk is coming through, like barely standing. You can see we have a triage zone where it's like all these Avengers that have fought the X-Men are like down. Tony Stark is still trying to figure out a way, the link between Wanda's powers and the Phoenix. So now what's interesting here is that, so to hold Thor, Colossus throws him into a volcano. And at this point, Storm and the other X-Men, besides the except for the 5, leave and join the Avengers. And by the way, interesting here, Emma Frost has become aware of the fact that the Phoenix is changing the X-Men, because first off, she goes to like the hottest place on Earth, and by hot I mean temperature, and but basically she doesn't want to hear like the minds of other people, so she comes here for quiet, and then she's like, I could reach into all the Avengers' mind and shut it off. And then the Cyclops like, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to kill them. But once again, Emma Frost goes, what scares me is what I could do. And then she goes, finds a dude who ran over a mutant in the plane and kills him. And this is where we see like Storm shows up to try and help with the repairs of Wakanda. And then what's interesting is, so T'Challa goes, okay, so listen, here's the way this is going to work. Okay, so you know our marriage, the high priest of Wakanda annulled the marriage. And then Storm goes, but you're the high priest of Wakanda. And he goes, yeah, that's true, we're done. And she's forced to leave in shame. Then at this point, we meet with the Avengers who go through a portal and meet the X-Men, the good X-Men. And they go through into this volcano where magic has brought in a bunch of creatures from limbo to serve as like a prison for the Avengers. The creatures show up, and so they find them all like, the Avengers find their friends like all walled up, all full alien style. And then the Avengers are discovered by the X-Men, and then they fight. And then Spider-Man does the whole stay behind thing. He gets pummeled by the X-Men, like really, really, this is bad. It looks like he's gonna die. So what he does is, in a stroke of genius, Spider-Man goes, oh man, you know what's interesting? All this fighting, and it's so interesting because you guys really have to, because Magic and Colossus are arguing about whether or not to kill him. So Spider-Man goes, well, you guys have to learn to get along. After all, you both know what would happen to all of you if one of you was to fall, right? I'm sure none of us wants to see that. And then Colossus and Illyana fight over who gets the Phoenix powers, and this leads to Illyana and Colossus losing the Phoenix powers, and then it goes into Cyclops and Emma Frost. So they're the only ones that are left. Cyclops finds hope on Kunlun, so she's no longer like hidden. Once again, we're just doing the main event, the main storyline. I'm not going to worry about the tie-ins right now. So come back, the X-Men are discovered by Phoenix Scott, and then the other X. So what's interesting here is back on Utopia, what we find is like the other X-Men are forced to bow before Emma Frost, and she can read their minds and say, "Do you think me a cruel master, mistress?" And she goes, "No, ma'am." And then Magneto's like, "You're not acting like someone in charge. You're acting like a dictator to your own kind." And then Emma Frost goes, "Okay, let's not really start accusing me of being hostile towards our own kind. Do we really have to go into this story? There are storylines of Magneto doing really bad stuff to the other mutants, like horrendous, atrocious actions." So over here, it's not doing well against the X-Men, against the Avengers. So then the Avengers who are down for the fight show up and start taking on Scott Summers, but he handily defeats them until Hope and this ninja dude show up on a dragon and fight him, but the dragon gets hit. Is about to get killed when the others show up and basically make Scott like back off. And then the Avengers find Wanda Maximoff. Everyone's in one spot. This is not turning out well for the other creatures. So then, all right. So remember, I told you Hope can manifest other mutant powers. So she manifests the power of the dragon, I guess. I don't know where this is coming from. She punches Cyclops to the point where he gets teleported to the moon. And I was like, oh no. So now we get to now the X-Men on Utopia are starting to discover, look, they've gone out of control. We need to actually at this point, we're no longer in the right on this occasion. We have to actually like end this. In other words, a lot of the X-Men defect and join the Avengers. And then we open up in the Grand Canyon. Captain America seems to be talking to this creature and goes, "Listen, I'm out of options. Phoenix Force is all powerful. Every time we kill one or take out one, the other ones get more powerful. The other 4, or at this point 2. Listen, I'm calling all my friends. It's all hands on deck on this. Can I count on you?" And then the Hulk goes, "Okay, Hulk will smash for you." Then we find Rogue, and she's talking to Professor X, and she goes, "Look, we were all duped by Cyclops. We're sorry. We really just want to make this right. Allow us to side with you against Cyclops and Emma." So then the Avengers are like, "Hey, welcome aboard. We can always use the help." And then Cyclops and Emma Frost start talking, and I just love how Olivia Corporal draws Emma Frost as the Phoenix, like a female Human Torch. Actually, all the Phoenixes. I love how they show like the fire coming off of the figures. It looks really cool. And it's kind of funny. Emma Frost has is like really concerned about the Phoenix influencing her. And what's interesting, this is going to play into future X-Men stories after this storyline. So then Charles Xavier draws Cyclops out. And he basically starts talking to Scott, and he goes, "What are you doing, man? You're destroying. You're basically a dictator now. This is not what I wanted for you." And then the X-Men, and then the Avengers and X-Men show up, fight Cyclops, and then Cyclops realizes I can't beat him. So Emma Frost shows up, and I love how Storm goes, "Emma, there's something I've always wanted to say to you." And was like, "What is that?" And she just freaking blasts her with lightning. And then Cyclops puts up a good fight, but then he realizes against Wanda, he can't do this alone. I'll show you that in a second. So what's cool is that then Emma Frost shows up, looks like she's about to blast Wanda, and then the Hulk shows up and smashes. But then, all right, so it looks like Magneto's gonna get killed, and then he's saved. Well, he's kind of saved by Wanda, kind of shielded. And then the rest of the team shows up. You got Iceman fighting fighting Cyclops. And then now Cyclops starts to realize I can't do this alone. So he goes and takes out Emma Frost because he knows that her power will go to him. So Emma Frost is knocked out, and then Scott becomes the full. Well, actually, Scott kills Professor Xavier first off, and then. But what I love is that Wolverine goes to Cyclops. I mean, to Hulk, throw me. Basically, does a fastball special, and then Cyclops basically becomes the full Phoenix, which I think the Cyclops Phoenix design looks amazing. So here we are. We're on the last issue of Avengers versus X-Men. All right. So, okay, so now we're cutting up to, so previous to that battle, we had the Avengers talking about how are we going to beat these guys, because there's like no way we can, because our job just gets harder. And then Iron Man's like, I think we can do it. And then everyone's like, and he's like, I have faith in that we'll be able to do this, because we have two aces in the hole. We have Wanda and Hope, and it's like, so they're still like, so again, Wanda's she's a mutant. I mean, sorry, I'm tired. Hope's a mutant, and again, all mutants really dislike Wanda, because basically Hope says you wiped out the mutants. Cyclops started down this path because you forced his hand. So they start fighting, and then Captain America's like, I think we could do this, and he walks out and sees the fight. And then look at this battle. This is dope. I'm going to turn this into one of my computer backgrounds. I think this will look really dope. I like how you can kind of see Iron Man's like a metal like melting. So then what we have is the Avengers. The Avengers are like, oh God, this is not going well, because he's the Phoenix. This is not going well. And we see like the Avengers fighting Cyclops, but it's not working. And we also see the Avengers and X-Men working together to like avert all these disasters. And then the Avengers are fighting Cyclops, but Cyclops is like really not like going down. Then Nova shows up and just takes Cyclops down. And then Hope and Wanda shows up. They go to fight Cyclops because they're like the weak. They're the strong one. They're the ace in the hole. They weaken Cyclops enough so the Avengers can like move in and give him the 1-2. And then so what happens is next, Cyclops gets knocked out, which means the Phoenix is released, and then the Phoenix goes into Hope. And then what eventually happens is Hope goes around, she averts all these natural disasters. So she has controlled the Phoenix. She shows up and she has the white Phoenix costume. And she and Wanda go. So Wanda goes, this isn't why you were chosen to be the Phoenix. You were chosen. Okay, so here's the conversation. Actually, I'm going to read the whole conversation. So Hope goes, I see where the others went wrong, where they faltered. I will not fail. I will be the white Phoenix. I will be the savior of all. So Wanda goes, no, that's not why you were chosen. Look inside yourself, see what I see in you. This is your destiny. You're right. You were born to be the Phoenix, but not so you could wield this power. It's because you're the only one with the strength to let it go. So essentially what happens is Wanda and Hope combine their powers and go, no more Phoenix. The Phoenix leaves. Now, here's where it links to House of M. At the end of House of M, there's an interview with Hank Pym, and he's talking about the law of physics that says that, like, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So they're waiting for like a release of energy. This release of energy from this incident right here starts to make mutants manifest themselves again. And Cyclops shows up and he's all depressed. So then Cyclops is put in this ruby quartz prison because that's the only thing that like can reflect his heat waves. And then he's talking about Cyclops actually feels contrite. And then he's like, all right, listen, I take full responsibility. Emma, Magneto, the others, they were acting under my orders. Don't like hold this against them. And then Cap's like, you have you're in no position to be giving orders to me. But Captain America goes, I'm going to take responsibility for one thing. Back on Utopia, you were right about one thing. The Avengers should have done more for mutants. I should have done more. I allowed the world to hate and fear them for too long. That's really key here. So then what he decides to do, he forms the Uncanny Avengers, which is basically, he forms a mixed team between X-Men and Avengers in the hopes that what this will do is it will lead to the public trusting mutants more because they're on the Avengers and all that. In addition to, unfortunately, there's like lots of scars, like Wakanda, in Wakanda, Storm and Black Panther are still divorced. Now, what's interesting is Iron Fist goes, okay, so wait, they're watching on the news that like the new mutants are appearing because of this energy. So Iron Fist turns to Tony Stark and he's like, you knew this would happen, didn't you? And he goes, I had my suspicions. I figured something would happen. This is where Nova joins the Avengers, and then Captain America and Wolverine leave, and then everything kind of wraps up. See, Uncanny Avengers. And then that is Avengers versus X-Men. Hope you guys enjoyed that storyline. It's definitely one of my all-time favorite like Marvel events. And again, as an Avengers fan and as an X-Men fan, it's one of the coolest storylines I think they did. I like the motivation for why they the two sides go to war, because it 100% makes sense that like if your race is on the verge of extinction, you're going to take desperate measures to preserve your race, and that's what Cyclops did. He thought that by using the Phoenix powers, he could like essentially do what Hope was supposed to do, but he really couldn't. He thought that he can use the Phoenix to benefit mutants, but once again, it didn't work out because the Phoenix corrupted him. In fact, that's gonna be a theme in like X-Men stories after this, because Emma Frost actually breaks up with Scott because of this. Because what happens is that she basically tells Scott, you didn't recognize that we were all being corrupted. I warned you multiple times. It's like when they met in the volcano and she goes, listen, I don't know what I'm gonna do next. I don't have full control over my actions. And Cyclops was like, oh, don't worry, we'll be fine. Don't worry, dude, we'll be totally fine. So it is majorly Scott's fault in that regard. So she is right about that. So again, that's Avengers vs. X-Men. Next is Hawks and Pox. I've been covering these in a certain order. In other words, when they take place within the X-Men continuity. And these are just select storylines that I think are like some of the best X-Men storylines. Hawks and Pox being my number one. I mentioned that in, I think it was last week's episode of the Academy, where I talked about my top 5 favorite X-Men storylines. So I think about an hour, it's a good place to leave it. Again, you may have noticed when you visit the YouTube channel, we now have a nice YouTube banner finally. And we have a new marketing on all the podcasts. Under Two Capes has a new logo, which will be on the audio platforms. Let's see. The channel is now known as Comics League. So now the overall media entity is Comics League, and then each of the individual shows are like a Comics League podcast, if you will. And then once again, we're keeping the idea that the only non-YouTube show is a non-YouTube exclusive show is Under Two Capes. Just that way it brings more people to the YouTube channel, because ultimately the YouTube channel is like my main focus right now, because we built up a pretty good following. We breached 1,000 plays fairly recently on the audio podcast on like Anchor and Spotify and such. And we're really working now on making the YouTube channel and like growing what we have here. That's why I have Tyler building the website. It's going to look really gorgeous. I saw a couple of the markups. They look really good. Tyler, if you're watching this, well done, buddy. And so for the future of the podcast. So tomorrow, Lad and I are going to be talking about not only the Spider-Man trailer, but we're also going to do like a general episode on, I believe, hang on, Lad sent me a text on what he wanted to cover. I want to do that. Oh, we may be making t-shirts for the thing. Well, let me know what you want to do. So again, tomorrow, I think it would be cool to discuss best superpowers and most unusual superpowers. So remember when we did that podcast episode on like the most unusual mutant powers? We're going to do that again, except more general, applying not just to mutants, but to like all the superheroes, Marvel and DC. We're going to do a general discussion about the most unique, crazy, useless, badass superpowers that exist in comic books. And in terms of the schedule, everything is going to remain the same. Hopefully, I'm still getting back into. I'm still trying to balance this with school, but I think I should be able to do that. And by next week, I'll be back in the office because I'm getting my computer repaired again. But yeah, everything's going pretty well. Hope you guys are enjoying all the content we're throwing out. If you guys have any topics, X-Men related or otherwise, just that you want to see, drop it in the link. Drop in the comments if you guys have anything whatsoever you guys want us to address. Always drop in the comments because we will reshuffle things to cover the topics that the fans want actually request. We are men of the people. And then pretty soon I'll be having a guest on the show to talk about we're going to be revisiting the Superman Wonder Woman debate. But because the reason we're revisiting it is because I met a friend who happens to be on my side of the debate. So we're going to hear another perspective on that because I figured I was kind of outnumbered on that debate, even though I still think I won. So I want to hear another perspective on why Superman Wonder Woman works. She may come up with better reasons why that works than I can, and why Wonder Bat doesn't work. Sorry, everyone. But anyway, so we got some exciting plans for the podcast, and yeah, we're looking into doing t-shirts and everything. Just let us know if you guys think it'd be a good idea to have t-shirts. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We will be talking next week. Let me see. Next week is probably going to be on like my favorite mutant characters, probably. We'll see. I'm still planning out because remember the way this works is it's a general topic storyline. And then the reason why I abandoned the whole, I actually legitimately abandoned the old schedule for Under Two Capes, because before I used to have it where it's like every 2 weeks we would go from Marvel to DC. So it'd be 2 weeks of DC, 2 weeks of Marvel, 2 weeks of DC, 2 weeks of Marvel. I abandoned that because it's too limiting on what I can cover, and plus it just makes it easier to plan episodes. So we'll have like a lot of general episodes. And then let's see. I'm trying to figure out what normal comic storyline, what DC or Marvel storyline do you guys want me to cover on the Under Two Cape show? Drop that in the comments below. All right, guys. Hope you guys have a good week, a good weekend, and I'll see you next week. Actually, you'll hear me tomorrow when Lad and I talk about Spider-Man trailer and superpowers. Anyway, class session. Have a good weekend, guys.